Howdy, howdy, bluegrass buddies and fiddle friends. It's your old pal Mike Mitchell here from the Floyd Music School and Mike Mitchell Band for Bluegrass Unlimited magazine. It is my monthly fiddle lesson. We're going to do an advanced fiddle tune this month. We're going to do Grassy Fiddle Blues by Kenny Baker. This song and this video is dedicated to my pal Dave Byrne from Wicklow, Ireland, who came to pay a visit 2 nights ago here in Floyd, Virginia, and he and Dave Jr. and my wife Jenny and I just had a big time talking about bluegrass until late into the evening, and it turns out that Dave Byrne and myself are big fans of Kenny Baker. I've brought other Kenny Baker tunes to this series, and I'm happy to bring this more obscure tune of Baker's, the Grassy Fiddle Blues, to us today. Now let's get started. I am going to play it for you. I'm going to play it as it was taught to me by ear by Blaine Sprouse, who was a student and a long time protege of Baker's. It's going to start off in second position, but we're going to get to that later. This is how I find it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so that's the tune as it is. Just grab this guy. One of the few things in my studio actually older than me. I'm very proud to have that old tin stamped tactile metronome. Love it. Helps me stay in time. And if you don't already use one, well then this is probably the wrong lesson, because this is kind of advanced. I always wonder, I know that Baker learned as a boy, and I read somewhere that Baker learned as a boy on a full-size fiddle, and that he had to, when he was a young lad, lay the scroll of it up on the side of the bed. And I often wondered if that is where Baker became so proficient in second position fiddling. So much of what he does utilizes second position. Which, is not entirely common. Generally, it's, first position, third position, that's about how we go. But so much of Baker's stuff is in second, and that's where we're going to start. So we're going to talk mainly about the left hand. We can all of us fiddlers can talk and argue amongst each other at length about the right hand of Baker's stuff. And I will provide some bowing and my own transcription and another transcription that I found, an old handwritten one, that will provide some insight about the bowing. But it's still, to me, so mysterious. And so many of my friends, Mike Hartgrove and I were speaking the other day about Baker's bowing. And what Kenny told to Mike was, bow it your own way. But the left hand, more or less, is going to be Kenny's way. And again, I found second position using the octave. Very important that we use a swing rhythm on this. I know I'm supposed to be talking about the left hand, but let's use a swing rhythm. Index finger down. At least for me, my friends, index finger's got to be down, or I'm going to be far more out of tune than I want to be. so there's our first phrase. Da ga da ga da ga da ga da ga da 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 ga da 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 da. Right? It really provides the whole. I mean, the double stops in the B part are sick and crazy and awesome, but the flavor of this fiddle tune is provided right there. It's up at the quick step, very fiddly, very grassy, and kind of has maybe even a big band or a ragtime band, a little bit of a jazzy feel to it. Once again, 2, 3, 4. Now, da 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 dum ba da da dum dum dum. Maybe even like a little bit of a carnival feel as I slow it down and consider it. First position, of course, for that. And then I'm going to be smart and go right back up to second. And if my index finger's down, I've got that double stop to choose if I so wish. So the second phrase. Now let's repeat phrase 1. But instead of going down, a slope down, let's scoop up. Back up. All right, so that's our A part. In my transcription that I made a couple years ago with some advanced students of mine here at Floyd Music School, we slow things down. We use the AnyTune app so that we can use the EQ and isolate the fiddle as best as we can on the County 750 recording, Grassy Fiddle Blues. But they're still old recordings, and they're all kind of gathered around one mic, and they're not necessarily high fidelity, and the bowings and some of the ornaments, we're doing our level best to get accurately. And that such is the nature of transcription, and thankfully we're in folk music, and it's okay. So, one thing I do know is that first phrase, he scoops down. And at the end of the third phrase, he scoops up. The rest of it is pretty much uniform. There's some question as to, and I know I wasn't going to talk too much about the right hand, but there is some question as to whether that open D was in the slur or a separate note. And again, as Baker told Mike Hargrove, who told me, who's telling you, bow it your own way. Get some rhythmic ideas, of course, and be rhythmic always. There's no room for, especially at this level, for not being rhythmic. But bow it your own way. Bow it however you can get some drive out of it. Let's play the whole A part, shall we? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the B part. That's where everybody wants to get to. We're going to start in first position. Open A. First finger and third finger sliding up to third position. Now I know that there's a little open A that's at the end of that double stop. Now, I also want to take a moment and credit John Rigsby, who, again, Baker style, Eastern Kentucky, that flavor. And John Rigsby years ago at Mickey's Mountain, Calvin Mickey's Bluegrass Festival up in Ohio, kind of walked me through the way to phrase this properly. I had way too much classical and I wasn't sliding enough. And I was using 1/3 and 2/4. And Rigsby was like, why are you working so hard? Baker didn't use 2/4. He used 1/3 and slid it around. So there's a little insight for you from fellow fiddlers. There we go. Most of us at the advanced level, we know to practice one note and then the other. And then. Right? And then put them together. Let's do that first phrase of the B part again, my friends. 2, 3, ham. And then there's a little hiccup. And that's what I was doing. I was doing 2/4. And thankfully I was showing the light. So it's a 1/3 double stop. Let's play both phrases. 2, ready, and. So it's 1/3 on that descent, and then just. Now let's slide it back up for phrase 3, my friends. Now I'm going to, full disclosure and admitting, I generally, when I do the da-da-da-dum, which is so Baker, right? Because I wasn't gifted with especially long digits, thank you, Lord. Generally, I'll do the little turn on one finger or the other. Very rarely in performance am I going to do both, because it tends to get a little sloppy for me. But if you are digitally endowed, please, 1/3 and 2/4 for the ornament. So again, there we go. And then we're coming into third position, my friends. And make sure you go to an E flat there. And I have to give Michael Cleveland the credit for coaching me through this part as well. These double stops. I had a far more intricate double stop progression that I guess in hindsight, I guess I just kind of made it up on my own. I thought the tune was a little bit more difficult just on hearing it. Don't we all do that sometimes? And I put too much in it, and Mike Cleveland kind of, in an online lesson, he kind of talked me off the edge there. Thank you, Mike. Yeah. And he was the one that said, dude, you got to make sure you're at G, and then E flat. All right, so let's take those phrases from the B part. 2, ready, and. And then we've got the tag. And I have to scoop that B under the G. That's all Mike Mitchell. Baker didn't do it, but I can't seem to stop myself from doing it. It's a little ornament that I just have to do, or it messes with my head the rest of the day. So let's take that last phrase. It's just kind of a G scale. There we go. And that, the right hand on that is, I'm pretty sure, exactly what Baker played. That's what he did. And just a little, since we've come to the end of the left hand of the A and B part, before we head into the C, I guess I just want to say that it seems to me that Baker wasn't confined to stressing the down bow all the time on the 1 and the 3. And he definitely didn't use that Georgia bow, waka-da-da, waka-da-da, waka-da-da. Not like I do. I spent a lot of time, Randy Howard, Michael Cleveland as well, Vassar Clemens, a lot of that where the stress is in that Georgia shuffle. I think that Baker wasn't defined, and he was very balanced linearly with his bowing, in that starting a phrase with an up bow stroke didn't seem to matter. What seemed to matter, and what seemed to be the defining purpose of Baker's bowing from what, and others who are more schooled and more scholarly than I about Baker's playing, I'm sure have far more depth of insight. But I think that what was most important to him in his bowing was the swing. Da 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 da, keeping it light. Da 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 da. So I don't think that he, like me, needed a strong down bow. I don't get that, and that's why this. So we have an the first beat of the next measure is an up, and then another up. And most of us would want to be an up bow there. But he's down and ending on an up. But what happens is we're set up for a down bow into the C part. So it's more crooked than what I'm used to playing, and I need to study it more, and I think we all do, because the rhythm of the man's playing is just unquestionable. C part. Again, a couple of crooked slurs in that, but I'm going to stand by it after taking great pains to listen closely. Here we go again with that phrase. There's a balance there. And I'm going to do a 2/4 in tune. Let's take that again. 2, 3, yeah. All right, before we move on to almost the same phrase, again, I want to point out the seesaw. Instead of using a 4, it wasn't that. It was the seesaw, the rocking, the making use of the pair of the strings. Really, really important. Subtle? Yeah. Indispensable? Maybe not. But for me, that stands out. Anytime I hear a good seesaw motion with the bow in a fiddle tune, I pick up on it right away. Double shuffle, that type of thing. I think it's really important. I mean, it's a pair of strings, and we have a bow, and we're gonna rock, just like a mandolin wants to cross pick, etc. I think it's important to recognize that Baker did this. Now it's almost I think it's the exact same phrase. And again. There we go. Let's play that C part again. 1, 2, 3, yeah. Now, I'm going to address the last C part on the album version. Just a couple of ornamentations that changed it around a little bit. I find them simple, yet really, really effective. Of course, I've got my own, probably way too schmaltzy way of playing this, where I do a big, long triplet rundown all the way from 2 octaves. And yeah, it's way too schmaltzy, but I do it. Baker did a couple of little triplets and a couple little turns, chromatic turns, that I think are really, really effective on the album on his last C part. Other than that, he didn't change anything else. I think the arrangement on the album, going from memory, is A, B, C, A, B, banjo break over the A part, back to C, no, sorry, back to B on the fiddle, and then C, and then another B, and then this final C. I'm pretty sure that's the album arrangement. But in your jam or in your band that you play in or what have you, of course, I'm sure that you'll be equitable and everyone gets a run. So here's Baker's last C part. Totally Baker. That part is not. That's a little jazzy. But he did. He put a B flat after an E flat. So let's take that again. 1, 2, 3, yeah. Same thing. And then he kept it real simple. He used a 6th. Nice and simple. Boy, I need to follow that example in my own playing. And then the same phrase repeated again. And then there's a tag. Very, very simple. Let's take that whole last C part again, shall we? 1, 2, you know what to do. Repeat that last. And I'm going to offer just a little bit of my version. Just a little bit. That's what I do on stage. I don't know. I kind of like it. I don't think it's too schmaltzy. I think it's a nice ending, and it shows our skill. Shows our skill in a tasteful way, not in like a, you know, kind of like a gaudy way. So, shall we play the whole thing? Yeah, we're going to play ABC twice, and then we're going to play ABC again, but we're going to use Baker's last C part. And let me turn on my old metronome, and we will rock out. One, two, three, yeah. Last one. Tag it. Now, isn't that fun, man? I could just, I love playing this tune. I'm going to show you guys a little variation that Blaine Sprouse taught me that I think is really cool. And this might be how I ended up approaching kind of the ledge of making it way too complicated. And again, big thanks to Michael Cleveland, who years ago gave me a fiddle lesson on this tune, and who has a killer break that you can find on YouTube. Gray Fox Festival 2011. By the way, I have a transcription for his break if anyone's interested. But Blaine taught me for phrase 3 in the B part. Phrase 1. This next is Blaine Sprouse. And I think it's really cool, and I happen to use that often on stage. And for some reason, whenever I do that, I end up using the 2/4. I think I like to do it because it's kind of like a marcato. It's sort of like more robotic. And then so yeah, that's a little cool thing that Sprouse taught me. And I think real quick, I'm going to show you my schmaltzy C part. It's kind of more jazzy. And then so the Mike Mitchell C part, 2, 3, and there you go. Put it all together. At the end of the day, I've talked a lot about the right hand being sort of an enigma for me and Baker bowing and a lot of my pro fiddling friends, some of who've been pro fiddlers as long as I've walked the earth. So I'm okay with that. As a scholar, I have to keep trying, and I want to know how Baker bowed, of course, and I want to be able to utilize that as a player, as a performer, for sure. But as a fiddler and someone who just wants to contribute to the groove, I've got to take those bowings and I've got to end up working with what works for me. I've got to be rhythmic, and I've got to work with how I can be, how I can contribute to the groove. Again, as I always tell my students, grandma's got to dance. And if there's no groove to it, then, and if I get too stodgy or mired down trying to do some other fiddler's bowing, even if it's the fiddler who wrote the tune, well, then I'm taking away from the groove. And at the end of the day, none of us want to do that. There's enough of that goes on in the world already. I've preached enough. I hope that you guys enjoy learning Grassy Fiddle Blues. Anyone who already plays it, this is one of those tunes that I would love to have your insight. Please reach out to me, floydmusicschool@gmail.com. Thanks, as always, to my buddy Dan Miller for asking me to do these videos. Thanks to Bluegrass Unlimited magazine. Thanks to everybody in Owensboro who's putting it out. Let me see. And again, thanks to my friend Dave Byrne from the My Grass is Blue company in Ireland. And happy fiddling, and I hope to see you all down the road. Thanks.